Hey everybody, it's Elias Mastrogiannis here, and this is the Distillery Nation Podcast, where insightful business advice collide with craft distillery interviews. Look no further, as you found the podcast you need to listen for craft distilling. Hello and welcome to episode 01 of the Distillery Nation Podcast. Today's guest is Ben Capdevielle. Ben is the co-owner and distiller of Captive Spirits here in Seattle, and the mind behind Big Gin. Ben, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you for coming. So Ben, tell us a little bit about your intro and give us a little glimpse into your personal life.
Okay. Well, like you said, my name is Ben Capdevielle. I'm the co-owner and distiller at Captive Spirits in Seattle, where we make Big Gin. Let's see. I am the kind of the face of the brand, along with my wife Holly, and we do most of the day-to-day operations at the distillery. I'm the distiller and the plant manager, so it's my responsibility to make sure that we have gin, that we have glass bottles and botanicals and spirit and everything we need in order to produce our products. And I kind of run the production schedule and manage the barreling processes and stuff like that. I'm a career bartender before opening the distillery. I've only worked in the restaurant industry, a couple stints in with some landscaping when I was a younger man, but I've just kind of sharpened my teeth in that industry, and so it was a real natural progression to come from behind the bar and to open up to become a supplier as opposed to a bartender. Go ahead.
So that's actually a good follow-up for our next question. As you said, it's a natural progression, but what kind of made you go into this business? Like, did you saw kind of like the wave of, craft distilling, or did you just want to, you were not happy with the gins out there and you just want to create it your own? Or like, tell us a little bit the story behind that.
Well, mainly my main influence came from my dad, who's been moonshining for years, and basically his whole life. His dad taught him, and he taught me in my 20s, and I think I was 25 when I did my first rum distillation with my dad and his buddy's friends down in, with my dad and his buddy Doug, who they've been working together for years, and so they just kind of said, "Okay, son, here's the real basics," and they taught me how to ferment sugar wash and just make like a real basic rum, and that and I'd known that my dad had been doing this for years, but I was kind of coming of the age where they felt like they could share the family secrets and processes, and I just got hooked right away and started doing it as much as I could at home, and eventually we ended up deciding on gin for the distillery, which is a kind of a unique approach. Most craft distilleries make a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of different categories: vodka, gin, whiskey, rum, liqueurs. And we decided that, because we were doing such a great job moonshining gins that people were really enjoying, we decided to make that our business plan for Captive Spirits.
Just focus on gin and that's it, and make it the best possible.
Exactly. Yep.
Excellent. It's actually very good. I got to tell the story. I was actually, Captive Spirits was one of the first distilleries that I visited here in Washington. And, I've been in Ballard so many times, and, I did a little research, found the website, found the location, and I'm like, I'll give it a shot. So I think it was a Saturday morning or something, and I was trying to find it, and it was a little bit hidden away, and kind of peeked on the back and saw you, and we kind of introduced ourselves. I remember you gave me the interview, the background, and a little tour of the distillery. We tasted some of the Big Gin, and then the Bourbon Barrel Big Gin, which is delicious.
Thank you.
And we'll talk about a little bit about that too.
Okay.
So yeah, it was awesome, and we had a good time there. And I was surprised that you guys run such a tight operation in such a small space too.
Yep.
So,
and that's one thing about that's neat about this industry. There's a lot of different business plans. There's some $4 million distilleries in Seattle, and then there's ours that we got going for less than 100,000. And you don't need a lot of capacity in order to make quite a bit of gin. So we love our little spot, and I think we're going to be there for about 6 more months.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
You guys looking for?
Yeah, looking at a new space over in an industrial zone on. We're calling it New Ballard, but just over the Ballard Bridge and on your way to Fremont, there's like a
Excellent.
a 13th Avenue West goes down towards the waterfront. But that's probably about 6 or 8 months out. So.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to visiting that location when it's open.
Thank you.
So let's dive into the next question, which is, you probably had this quite a few times, but take us to the worst distillery moment that you had, either, during the initial phase or saying, I'm gonna put some money into this and, start my own business.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about the story?
Sure.
And some of the lessons learned?
Yeah, I guess the lesson, the most important thing that we learned was start small if you can, because it's much less risky. The first business plan that we wrote was for $1.25 million. Mm-hmm. And we are secretly happy that didn't happen, because that's a lot of bottles to sell. That's a lot of, I don't think we would have wanted that much responsibility. And
yeah,
so instead we started on a shoestring. And that was part of the scary part was, are we going to be able to pull off with this small amount of money that we have? And I want to encourage people to not let that be a determining factor if you're going to get the business opened or not. Just get it open, get some good stuff out there, and then see what happens. But that was the scariest part for us in the beginning was, how quickly are we going to be able to get this thing to pay for itself? At least be paying its own rent, because we paid rent out of our own pockets for 2 years. Yeah, which was all my savings.
And that was essentially for your licensing and putting everything in place and permits and
exactly. You have to have your space first before you can start moving forward with anything else. Mm-hmm. That's what the TTB wants right away. They want an address, and then you got to buy your equipment. And it was 18 months of since when we signed the lease until we got going. So that was the scariest part was, are we going to be able to keep the doors open and
even open? Yeah.
Now we're in year number 4 and we're feeling pretty good.
Yeah. So. Excellent. Yeah, I actually see Big Gin pretty much everywhere I go. So I think you guys are rocking it, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
So you kind of talked about your aha moment, which is essentially, your dad, and kind of passed from generation to generation. Mm-hmm. But what was the thing, from that first lesson, of making rum to saying, yes, I'm doing this. I'm gonna commit and do this? I guess
it's kind of it's a little bit of I guess I have kind of 2 answers for this question. The one aha moment that we had was when we had distilled all different sorts of gins, like distilled from, and this is when we were moonshining, distilling from a wheat base that we fermented and distilled ourselves, right? We had distilled some from neutral spirit that we bought. Mm-hmm. And then, we had traveled around the Northwest and into California and tried like as many different craft gins as we could. And what we discovered was that the London dry category was missing from these craft distilleries, right? And that's the dominating, that's Tanqueray, Bombay, Beefeater, Old Raj, all these.
The traditional English.
Exactly. And that's what ginners like, and that's what, if you want somebody to switch from Beefeater to Big Gin, it needs to be in that same category, right? And have similar flavor profiles. So that was our thing, was like, aha, let's make a super juniper forward gin for ginners that, people that already like this category would try and recognize as something that they've had before that they'd be willing to switch to for like a domestically distilled small batch product like what Big Gin is, right. and then price it accordingly so it's not way more expensive than the big brands. We tend to fall in Big Gin's usually about $2 or $3 more than Sapphire, so it's right there in that same price point. And so it's been so there was that. And then when we were in the process of making it, we discovered a technique called the 2-shot method, which is what they do in the UK, which is where you make a slightly more concentrated version of. So the 1-shot method is when you distill, you have your spirit in the still, you add your botanicals, you collect the spirit, then you add water to that, right? And that's what a lot of craft distillers do in the U.S. And
in order to proof it and bottle it, I'm assuming, right?
Yep. And so what we do is the 2-shot method, where we use more botanicals in the still than you would if you were doing the 1-shot method. And then we collect the distillate, and then we add a little bit of our neutral spirit back to that. And that like makes the distillation process more efficient. And that's how we're able to make 1,000 bottles in a day from 2 100-gallon stills. So that when we discovered that was our other aha moment. And then it was like, wow, this is what
it makes a difference.
We were looking for. Yep.
Yeah, and actually, it brings the flavor. It kind of it ties with the name too. It has that big juniper flavor, which I think is what you were guys looking for as well. So,
exactly. Yep. We love the taste of juniper, and I like it when it can. When you're drinking a Negroni and you can actually still taste some of the gin, not just the Campari, and so. Yes, with a name like Big Gin, it needed to be robust.
Yeah.
And,
exactly.
Yeah, so we're really happy with the way that it turned out.
Yeah. And then, we'll sidetrack a little bit, but apart from Big Gin, you actually bottled some Bourbon Barrel Big Gin. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The first and only American gin to win top honors at the International Wine and Spirits Competition in London last year. Bourbon Barrel Big Gin is Big Gin that's been finished in once-used Kentucky bourbon from Heaven Hill Distillery.
Excellent.
And that product, we get a lot of attention for it because it's unique and it's versatile. And what we love about it is it's categories while cocktailing. So it is a gin. It's distilled from a corn-based neutral spirit with it's the Big Gin recipe. I distill it in the exact same way. We finish it in the used barrels for 6 months, and that resting process softens the juniper punch. It highlights the warming spices that I use during distillation, like the cassia and the cardamom, the grains of paradise and Tasmanian pepperberry. And so it really shines as like a substitute for bourbons and rye in cocktails like old fashions. And
and it kind of mellows the whole gin down. Gives it a little bit of the golden color from the bourbon.
Exactly. So we get a little color from the barrel. That we say that it kind of round is. It's a nice gateway gin to get brown spirits drinkers to try the gin category again, because the juniper's still there, but it's not such a punch in the face like it is with Big Gin.
Yeah.
And then the gin cocktails that we like to do is we really like the Negroni and the Martinez, the Tuxedo, and it can even be used as in substitute for brandy in like a brandy Alexander or something. So it's just a really fun, real versatile. It's a nice sipper.
Yeah, I can even see it for like an old fashioned too. Little different, but it's still on the same.
No, that's my go-to drink with Bourbon Barrel Big Gin.
Okay, excellent.
Just some Angus, 2 ounces big Bourbon Barrel Big Gin, 3 dashes a quarter ounce of sugar somehow, simple or super fine, whatever. Stirred up real good, poured over fresh ice, orange peel, express the oils, and then garnish with the brandied cherry or a Luxardo cherry on top.
Good to go.
Yep, it's clean and sexy and refreshing and almost like an old fashioned you can drink on a deck.
Actually, it sounds really good right about now.
Oh yeah,
it's a little early, but we'll make it happen.
We don't drink anything stronger than gin before noon. So
that's right. All right, Ben. So let's move into what we call the distillery round, which is going to be about 10 fire rapid questions.
Okay.
Try to get a little bit of knowledge from you and your habits. So, what is your biggest strength as a distiller / business owner?
Wow. Okay. My biggest strength is my communication skills, I think. And the ability to just talk with anybody and everybody about Big Gin, honestly. And, we've been doing it for so long now, and I do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, right? That's, I think, one of the strengths that I have for the company.
Yeah, it actually helps a lot with the marketing and reaching out to people as well.
It's all about trust for us. And so that's when, we're making the same distillate over and over and over and over and over again in trust, consistency. That's my focus.
So what's your biggest weakness?
Personally, I think I micromanage a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure my wife Holly, my lovely wife Holly, would agree with that. But I'm getting better at it,
Yeah,
and in fact, the less I do it, the better the company does. So it's I see direct results when I just let people do what
let
they're better at.
let
Yeah,
things go.
yep.
Yeah.
So working on that.
Okay. What has you most excited about the company and Big Gin right now?
Just the trajectory, the growth, the accolades that we've been receiving. We're really confident that we're not the only people on earth that love this stuff now, and exports are going well. We've in a more crowded marketplace, right? Because every state, well, maybe not every state, but it seems like every state's got their own gin distillery now.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we're still able to get in and get a piece of market. So that's what we're really loving, is that even
That's really good.
yeah.
How many states and countries are you guys shipping right now?
Right now we're in 17 states and we export to 7 countries.
Wow, yeah, that's really awesome considering the space and your guys' production. So that's
Thanks.
very nice. We talked about it a little bit, but what's your favorite drink right now?
Oh my goodness. Right now I'm drinking lots of gin tonics.
Okay.
I adore gin tonics. It's right now I think is the heyday because of all these wonderful gins and all the wonderful tonics. Right,
Mm-hmm.
the concentrates, the better stuff from, like Bradley's Kina tonic that's aged in our used Bourbon Barrel Big Gin barrels
Excellent.
is
Yeah,
fantastic. For a local product, we love that. It's just a great time because there's so many options. So you can actually really tailor your gin tonic to your taste, to your likings. Big gin with Bradley's Kina is a lot different than big gin with Fever Trees,
Mm-hmm.
or dry soda lemongrass is also a nice little substitute. But yeah, gin tonics, and it's kind of like an all-day, any occasion beverage for me.
Yeah.
And for weekend brunch, I'm a Ramos Gin Fizz guy.
Excellent. So what kind of still and brand do you guys use at the Captive Spirits?
We have 2 100-gallon Vendome pot stills that were built in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
They're just real basic, almost like if you were going to draw the shape of a still. Stainless steel pots, copper cones, copper stacks, stainless steel condensers. Their names are Phyllis and Jean, named after
nice.
some dearly departed grandparents.
Excellent.
We've had Phyllis since day one, and we've had Jean now for about 2 years.
Okay, so you started with one and then added capacity as the distillery grew.
Yep.
And then they're running electric.
They are direct fired. So we've
direct fired.
Yeah, we've got natural gas burners underneath each still. I get there in the morning, 7 a.m., crank them up. Takes about an hour and a half till we start to see distillation. Then we distill for 10 and a half hours.
Okay, wow, that's a long process.
It is.
All right, next question. What was holding you back from becoming a distiller?
No, let's see. Funding,
Funding?
Yep, being able to, okay, do I have enough in my savings to, not work? And we, Holly and I had at the same time that we were opening the distillery.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a newborn baby. Holly had another job before she came over about a year and a half ago to work full time. But that was it.
Yeah, and then do you guys bootstrap it?
Yep.
The whole operation.
We got a $50,000 loan from my friend Ben Meager. That was then converted to equity after it became, it seemed 2 years into it. He was like, "Hey, you guys, don't even worry about the loan. Just keep the money. In fact, here's the interest and all the payments that you've made. Take it, and then we'll just convert that all into equity." And it's been, but so he came in at the beginning, and now I think, let's see, it was 3 years after we started. We did another round of money raising that came from inside the company. I got a nice little loan from my mom, and but yeah, Ben Meager was definitely instrumental in the beginning. It's high risk in the beginning.
It is, yeah, and that's the trouble that I'm having as well with starting on my own. It's bootstrap and all the different equipment and reports and permits.
Exactly.
cost a lot of money.
I highly recommend partnering with another distillery to do your product before you go off and open up your own distillery, because man, there's so many hats you have to wear when you're starting this thing. When you can just go and you can actually be the owner of the brand, you can have oversight over how the products are made, the bottles, labels, everything. But you're working with someone who already has that DSP. That's what I'm trying to encourage my dad to do in Wisconsin, where he lives.
Oh, wow.
Is, because he
just go under a different, essentially contract distilling,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, I'm like, find some. His special is fermenting, distilling maple syrup. And that's a seasonal thing. It only happens in, I think, March and April, or April and May.
So springtime.
Yeah, it's a springtime thing, and they got to ferment the sap. It's fresh, and so I'm like, Dad, you don't need your own distillery. You just use somebody's for a little while. So I highly recommend people at least consider that route to see if you like.
To begin with,
to see if you like doing it. Number one, and to see if your brand is able to like get a foothold and grab and get going somewhere before you have all this rent payment to deal with. And
yeah.
So
yeah. All right. What was the best advice you ever received?
Start small.
Start small.
Yep, that was from Steve McCarthy at Clear Creek.
Excellent. And it actually worked really well with you guys as well because of, as you said earlier, with 1.2 million or 1.5 million.
Yeah, thank goodness that didn't work, man. Because we didn't even know what we were going to make when we were out looking for that money. We didn't have like focus. We didn't. And then the smaller the budget got, the more we were going to do. Because, you can't make vodka, gin, rum, whiskey, liqueurs, and everything under the sun when you start with a small amount.
Yeah, you got to be very, very focused and execute on that. So
we kind of feel like we knocked out in a way. Like, okay, good. We didn't, and it was 2000. So it was really hard to get money.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
So can you share one personal habit that contributes to your success?
Let's see. Yes, my personal habit is when I walk by a restaurant or bar or drive by a liquor store or anytime I have an opportunity to go in and shake a hand and give an honest thank you, a heartfelt thank you from myself and my wife and our crew at Captive Spirits, because that's, a lot of people, you rarely, Desmond Payne, my buddy that makes Beefeater gin, when he comes to town, he goes to a couple different bars, but you don't get a huge opportunity to meet the guy very often. And so that's what we try to do. We try to be there for our clients. There are people that are supporting us. We want to make sure that we can get in there and, look them in the eyes and tell them that it means a lot to us. So that's. Do you
use the same approach for new clients as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If somebody hops on board, in our, like we work with Young's Market here in Washington State, and our reps, if they get us on a menu or if somebody even just picks Big Gin up, they'll let us know, and I'll make sure to make a call. Hopefully get the decision maker on the phone. But if I can't, I just leave a friendly message that says, "Hey, we heard you picked up Big Gin. We appreciate it, and I promise quality and consistency every time." So just communicating.
Yeah. Can you share an internet resource like Evernote that you can share with our listeners? And that could be something for personal or business related.
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah. Can you share an internet resource like Evernote that you can share with our listeners?
An internet resource like... sorry, I had a little trouble misunderstanding you. On in a resource like what?
Like Evernote, think about it, something you use every day to promote Big Gin, or
absolutely.
like a tool that you guys use at the distillery to make life easier.
Oh yes, it is a software. Sorry, I misunderstood you there. Now I got you loud and clear.
That's okay.
It's called Mountain Moonshine. No, it's the software that we use.
Okay.
And it's called ABS. The letter A, the letter B, the letter S, 3.3.
3.3.
Yeah, so if you Google that, it'll bring you to, it's like mountainmoonshine.com or something. But it's the most amazing $125 that any distiller will ever spend. And
what do you guys use it for?
We use it for proofing. So like I'll take my hydrometer and measure the strength of the spirit, and then I'll take a temperature of that, and then I'll just punch those numbers in, because the hydrometers are calibrated to 60 degrees. So unless the spirit that you're measuring is exactly 60 degrees, the hydrometer will read off. So we use
plus or minus.
Exactly. So we use the thermometer to find out the temp, then we plug that into the software, and it spits out the correct proof. And then when we want to smith the product down, we want to bring it down to bottle strength, we plug it in. We say, okay, we have this many pounds of this strength of spirit, and it tells us how many proof gallons we have. So then we know how many bottles to expect during bottling, and it's never let us down. It's a one-time fee. And if you call and have any questions about it, the guy that wrote the program is the fellow that picks up the phone, and that's who you're talking to, which is really, really nice. So ABS 3.3.
We'll link that into the show notes later on.
Awesome.
Last question. What is a book that you can recommend for our listeners?
Oh, boy. Well, I'm really into fermentation. So The Art of Fermentation.
Art of Fermentation.
Yes.
Excellent.
I think, it's a great book for not only for, fermenting beverages to drink that might have a little alcohol in them, but also like smreka, which is the fermented juniper berry and water beverage from parts of Eastern Europe. That's just real fun and real easy to make and super tasty. And then it's got all these amazing kimchi recipes and, pickling, and it's just fantastic.
All kinds of different fermentation techniques. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. We'll also link that as well.
That's my favorite book.
Excellent. All right, Ben, before we close out, can you tell us one last piece of parting guidance and the best way to connect with you?
Yes. Stella, I need 1 minute, please. Okay. Let's see. On Facebook, we are Captive Spirits Big Gin. On Twitter, you know what? I have to reach out on this one. Hey, Holly, what's our Twitter name?
At Captive Spirits?
At Captive Spirits, yep.
Excellent. All right. Sounds great. Well, Ben, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate all the info and insight into Captive Spirits, and looking forward to the new location as well.
Excellent. Yeah, and then keep your eyes peeled for that peat barreled Big Gin as well, which is
awesome.
Big Gin finished in Westland Whiskey's peated American single malt whiskey barrels. And then we just yesterday bottled our Barrel Reserve, which is a 3-year-old bourbon barreled Big Gin. So instead of 6 months in the barrel, 3 years in the barrel.
Oh man, looking forward to that. Yeah. Excellent.
Totally tasty. All right. Well, I'm honored. Thanks for having me.
All right, Ben. Take care.
See ya.
Hey, Distillery Nation. If you like what you heard today, please visit distillerination.com to view all of today's show notes, plus any of the previous ones. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at Greek Distillery. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.